All right, so one second here. Let's start this guy up again. All right, so WordPress news and events. It's a little bit light this month. I think we'll talk about that in a second, if that's what that may mean. So we mentioned before, I think last month, we do have a new WordPress point release coming fairly soon. So probably before we meet again, April 15th, it's still scheduled for a launch. So WordPress 6.8 is coming. If you're interested in what's in that, as always, you can install this plugin. Again, don't do this on your live production site. If you have a demo or staging site, if you search for the WordPress beta tester plugin, that allows you to easily switch to 6.8, the current the current release, and flip back and forth between that pretty easily, and report any bugs. So again, if you're curious about what's in it, that's certainly the best way to find out. We'll probably cover it, I assume, more next month. But to be honest, this is a little interesting. Well, not interesting, but it sounds like there's really not going to be a lot of new features in this release. It's going to focus primarily on being a polish and bug fix release. But there are some interesting potential, and things would always change. But what's kind of targeted for 6.8 is this idea about speculative loading for improved performance. So people are probably familiar with like the idea of lazy loading. So this is another technique for improving performance of loading resources. Adding some additional, like the full site editing type experience thing to classic themes, so the style book, making that available in classic themes. We'll talk about that a lot more tonight as we're talking about themes. Some enhancements to the design and editing tools, and some refinements to the query loop block. So those are like the big things that I saw. There's other stuff in there as well, a lot of bug fixes, etc. But this does kind of, and again, well, Peter, you're certainly more in tune with the WordPress, pulse of things these days. But I have heard, again, these are kind of unofficial rumblings, that we may be in for less releases this
Yeah.
year. It sounds like I've heard some, scuttlebutt that this may be one of the few large releases even this year, and that maybe 6.9 may not be something we see until next year. So I don't know. Have you heard anything similar to that, or?
Yeah, absolutely. There's a couple of write-ups, and one of the best sources right now for WordPress news is a website called, I'll get the link, of the repository, and it's repository.email. Putting it in the chat right now. This is a fantastic source. It used to be, we used to go to the WP Tavern.
Mhm.
That went through its own kind of issues. It was a news source, and then it's kind of again owned by the whole automatic.org thing, as far as I understand. And now it's just sort of like, when they do a podcast or something like that. But the repository does some pretty good reporting, very, very good reporting, actually. And it has a lot to do with the WP engine, WordPress.org issue, and how Matt Mullenweg, who is the top of the WordPress pyramid, has pulled back all, for all intents and purposes, all of the sponsored support for the development, and then other companies have followed. This has to do with how many hours that they were putting in and contributing to the building versus companies like WP Engine and what they were committed to do. And now there's even more pulling back. So Bluehost and Yoast and a few others they're pulling back. There's simply not that many people dedicated to contributing to building out core. So yeah, what we're going to see is the few hours that are out there that are sponsored, and then all the volunteers doing their best. The groups that are the teams that are doing the releases are much smaller. I look at this as a potential good thing, depending on a lot of things that happens, and a lot of the focus will be on cleaning things up, which I think is really important. And I actually think that there's definitely a benefit that could come from focusing on how new releases happen and what's in them, versus constantly having everything be, in my opinion, sort of like a work in progress, and it was over here, now it's over there, and things like that. So maybe this once a year they're talking about, and
There'll still be
that's
security releases in between and all that. Yeah.
yes,
So this won't be the
exactly,
last year in terms of like point releases. I'm with you too,
exactly.
Peter. I think maybe the pace was getting a little bit too much. So
Yeah.
we'll see. Again, some of this is still just speculation and all, and but again, we'll try to cover a bit, I think, next month about what we're really, if they stick to this date, and again, we'll see about that too. If they stick to this April 15th date, join us next month, and we'll see kind of what we do get out of that.
But I
So
do want to make one comment, which
sure.
is WordPress as a platform for building websites is as big as it is. And there may, even if things get a little weird, it can't go away. It's not, like, because some people say, oh, was WordPress stuff. It literally can't. It has too much mass and momentum and things like that. So
the problem may be stagnation. That's always the issue. Like if you get stuck in
yeah,
something and your competition's moving forward. So
but there's an entire ecosystem built on this platform that
agreed.
people who earn livings and some earn very, very good livings are going to figure out how to make sure that it doesn't stagnate to the point of frustration and mass exodus. So
I agree.
things may be
More
different,
to
but
come. Yep, more to come.
more to come.
Tool,
Panic not. We're still here.
tool tip or
Yeah,
plugin spotlight. Peter,
yeah.
kind of in for us?
Let me grab the screen if I can.
Sure.
I'm having a mouse problem, which is my mouse is lagging, which is
Uh-oh.
really annoying. I don't know if it's
Too many browser tabs open.
I think it's a well, that's what I thought it was, but it may be, it may literally be the wireless connection from my wireless mouse. So here's the repository. So there are some pretty interesting stories here that I just was pulling it up. But here's the story which WordPress could just see one major release per year under new proposal. One tip I want to show you is, and Ray, you don't know this, and I'm going to ask you for some input now or later. I mean, we could show people depending on how this call goes, and when we get to the latter half, if we want to just sort of you know do some free form stuff. But I set up a Hartford WordPress Meetup account on WordPress.org.
Neat.
Now, why is that helpful? It's kind of helpful for one major reason, I think, potentially for this group, which is when we talk about things, I will favorite them. So then when they're favorited, you can not only go and see, okay, well, what are some of the things that you've talked about? And this has some things that I favorite that I might pull back or whatever. But, if we talk about a plugin, what's nice about that is then if you're on a website and you go into plugins and you're going to install a plugin, and then you want to say, okay, I'm going to add a new plugin. One of the things that you can do is go to favorites. And when you go to favorites, if you pick Hartford WP, which is our account name, if you look over here, it's Hartford WP. And if you go there and get the favorites for that, you will get a short list of whatever plugins or themes that we have favorited.
That's awesome. I like that. It's better. You're right. It's better than going to the site and finding them. Yeah, you actually see them here. You can try them out. That's awesome.
Yeah. So, we can, we come up with what our, a tip or a tool, or if we do a deep dive into something like that, we can add it here. But by, it's just, it's Hartford WP and yeah. So I thought that would work. Again, it works under themes. So if we go into, and we're going to talk about themes today. And I picked a few where, again, if you go to favorites, and what's nice is when you're in there, it kind of defaults to once you put in the favorites. But now here are some, favorites. So that
can you also, Peter, that profile that you set up?
I favorited. I have one other quick thing.
Sorry, that profile you set up, is that public as well too? Can I just send a link to that to folks? Will they be able to see that?
Exactly. It is, and I lost my chat window. I'll put it in right now.
Yes.
Well, you can put it. I'll put it in right after the
call. Or send it to me afterwards, Peter, because I can send out whenever I send out the notes and when the recording and stuff.
There it is. It's in the chat.
Cool.
The other thing that I wanted to share is, and this is because with this particular meetup, I was doing a lot of just kind of not practicing so much as good. Gee, I wonder what we're going to encounter tonight when we take a random shot in the dark and see what theme we might want to install. And that's one of the things that Ray will, I'm sure, introduce. So I've been using the playground. Now, one of the things that's kind of a pain in the playground is if you just go to playground and you don't remember what you're doing and all, and then you start doing all this, you go, oh, I got to turn on network stuff so I can load a theme, So there's different things in the playground. If anybody doesn't know, playground is you can still see my screen, right?
Yep.
So playground is a instance of WordPress that works in your browser. So that you could just practice. You could just load it up and you can go do stuff. And it works the full thing. But now, if I go in here and I go to say, oh, I want to try Cadence. I don't know. Talking about, but say I want to add a new plugin. I'm going to get this message that says, oh, you didn't turn on networking. So you have to go change that. And one of the problems with if you were like working on something, you would lose what you have because of the way the browser works. So what's kind of neat is that there is this a query API, and all that means is that you can send a URL instead of going to Playground. You can go to Playground and send certain parameters there, and those parameters will open up Playground preloaded with stuff, right? So and this page, which I'll put in afterwards, kind of gives you what all those parameters are. I know it seems a lot, but ultimately what it comes down to is if I want to turn on networking and go to the dashboard, I would go to Playground WordPress net $URL. So you could end up saving these. And now if I go to this, I'm going to open up, and I told it go to the dashboard. It's on the front page. And now networking is started. I should be able to go and say add new plugin, and I should not get that message because it's in the URL to say add networking. I took that one step further, and then you could go like, here's an example where if I go to this whole URL, it's like go to admin, turn on networking, load the plugin cadence blocks, load the theme cadence, and now when I go there, my version of Playground will be preloaded with Cadence loaded and active under the plugins. I have Cadence loaded because I sent it over the URL to do it. So I took that one step further, and this will be the last part, Ray, I promise. Which is then, if I open up a new window, you can save those links, and I'm saving them as favorites or bookmarks, right? In fact, if I edit the bookmark, you can see what's in there. So I'm using Chrome, but most browsers, all browsers are going to have this bookmarking, and you could say, so if you spend some time, and I'll try to write up some instructions for that. Like say, this is something I created, which is just the URL that's in my bookmark is going to load a theme called Variations and a plugin called Twintig, along with a couple other things. So I save that. So now if ever I want to go in there again, instead of going through all of that and loading, I just go here and say, okay, just load Playground. And when you load it, and you can see the words downloading variations, it's preparing. It should be going to the dashboard. And now I have in appearance themes. I have the variations theme installed and active. And if I go to plugins, I'll have whatever I have the Twintig and the cadence blocks because that was in the URL. So that for me is a time saver, and also a thing that go, okay, now I have this little environment that I keep going to, and I just want to, go try something using whatever I might use all the time. So it's a really neat little.
Did they add this to here? Isn't in Playgrounds, do they have the idea of a blueprint as well too, which is similar to this? So that's another way to do it, but yours is just directly off a link, right? The blueprint, I think you have to export and then import or something.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And the syntax behind it is pretty straightforward. Again, looking at this whole thing, but you're basically saying, a plugin equals cadence blocks, right. And I could say plugin equals and add another plugin. I can do a whole list of plugins, things like that. So maybe I'll create a few different ones of these and we'll put them up so that if anybody wants. Yeah. But I just thought that was a neat little time saver for me. And if anyone else thought they could benefit from it, there you go.
Awesome. Cool. Thanks, Peter.
You got it.
All right. Yeah. So let me tee up our topic for tonight. So again, I was thinking about it, like we haven't really talked in depth about themes in a while. We've touched upon WordPress themes a little bit, but I think the last time we did a real deep dive into themes is maybe when we talked about child themes. long time ago. Like back we were meeting in person, I think was the last time we talked about that. So, we thought this would be an interesting thing, both to dispel some of the confusion around themes, and also since we spoke years ago, we do have this idea now, these block themes, and what are those, and how are those different, and all that. So Peter and I said, well, let's do something a little bit fun and challenging for ourselves. We like to challenge ourselves. Is we're going to sort of spin a wheel tonight. I'll show you our random wheel spinner in a second. I'll explain the rules of the game. And so Peter is going to get to pick, or he will get assigned a classic theme first, and I will later spin the wheel and I'll get assigned a block theme. So what's the point of this besides ridiculously spinning a wheel? It's really to kind of show you, and through us not having any practice on it, to show the process that we would typically use. And again, I encourage participation from others here as well, of understanding this specific theme that we're going to get assigned to ourselves, but also stepping back a little bit and talking generally about what is a classic theme? What does a theme do? What does a theme mean? And then I'll spend time talking about what's a block theme? How's it different? That kind of thing. So hopefully that makes sense. That's kind of our intention tonight. So we're hopefully going to pick themes that we've never used before. And Peter, I'm going to give us both one veto. So I'm going to spin the wheel, and let me explain how this is going to work. And we'll get one veto each. So if we pick something that's really bizarre, we'll both get to say, no, I don't want to touch that theme. So what I set up, again, just plain old, just to make our lives easier. So in Google, I have a random generator, just to make our lives easy. I said 1 through 30, right? We're going to pick a number. I'll assign something to Peter first, 1 through 30.
Okay.
And there's a couple ways you can do this. It doesn't matter, Peter, however you want to do it, but I'm just for the sake of this discussion here, we're going to look at, actually, you know what? I'm sorry. I don't want to do 1 through 30. Sorry. I want to skip the popular ones, because that's the ones we always tend to go to. So if you count this off, it's 3, 6, 9, 12. So I'm going to go, sorry, change this again, say 12 to, let's say 40, I guess, 12 to 40. So I'm going to spin the wheel, and then we're going to assign a theme, whatever theme shows up, to Peter. It's a classic one. And if it's something that looks terrible, Peter, you get one veto, and then we'll spin it again.
But I'll spend some time figuring out if it is terrible.
Okay. All right, so we're going to start it first. So something between 12 and 40. So let's roll the dice. Number 17. So where's 17? That's 3, 6, 9, 12. 12.
You're in popular though. Do you want to be in?
Oh, that's fine. You just go classic, I think. Yeah. So I think I landed you on Royal Elementor kit.
Oh, let's take a look. All right. So
explain why you groaned a little bit for that.
Because it's immediately saying that this is an Elementor page builder theme by design. It doesn't mean it has to be. But let's take a look. I can see it's a commercial theme. So let's take a peek. The one thing that, unfortunately, Ray, unless you know that they haven't, WordPress.org is definitely pushing block themes, which also means that while you can search for block themes, you can't not search for block themes.
Oh, are they mixed in together? Is that
yeah?
Okay, I thought they were.
You can filter for just block themes, but I haven't found a way.
To filter them out, you're saying. Right. Okay.
Yes, this could be a block theme, in which case I don't have to do it. But
it's not my turn, so you can.
Yeah. So let me do this. I'm going to grab the screen.
Sure.
Because it's Royal.
So explain a little bit again for folks who might be completely new on here. Elementor. Why we both were like, ooh, Elementor. So what is Elementor, and why did we both have that reaction?
So Elementor is the most popular WordPress, what's called a page builder. It came out before Gutenberg, or the block editor as we now know it. And it was in the world of, I want to have total design control. And it really was ahead of the game. And then there were other page builders that came in, like Beaver Builder and Divi and all. Now there's tons after that. And it is absolutely the most popular. Like, it deserves a lot of credit for giving a lot of people a lot of power over the websites. One of the problems I run into with something like Elementor is that they're There's a lot of people, if you did a YouTube search for how do I build a WordPress site, there's a very good chance you're going to come across somebody who's teaching you how to do it by saying first thing you do is load Elementor, which may not be the best advice at any time, and they may actually, because it's a premium, there is a light a free version, but then everybody goes to premium, and then if you buy it through them, they get an affiliate link, blah blah blah. But it has made WordPress, for the people who are really 100% into using Elementor, kind of a different version. And there's a lot of different versions of WordPress builders that you could put on. It's one of these things where we run into a lot of issues where people are like, oh, I have an issue, and then but my site's an Elementor site, and it's like, okay, but that's
the issue. Yeah, is it an Elementor?
Yeah, and it's so different from core that it can be a challenge to troubleshoot.
So take a quick look at it, but let's, if it, make a decision quickly, because then we'll spin the wheel again and give you.
Yeah. Can you see my screen?
No, not yet.
Okay.
Yeah, because I'd rather us concentrate more on the classic part versus the Elementor part, if we can.
You can see my screen now, right?
Yeah, we can. Yep.
Okay.
And it was called, if you missed the name, it was called Royal Elementor Kit was the name of the theme. Yeah, that one. Yep.
Okay. It's a right. Okay, so from a company called W. So here's what kind of one of the things that I deal with when, or if I'm looking at another theme. And quite honestly, I don't look at a lot of other themes, because here's tip number 3: find something that works for you and get really good at it. Don't chase themes if you don't need to, and understand that themes, don't get a theme based on what it looks like generally, because you're going to change the images and the colors anyway. So there's a lot of things that we can kind of introduce, and we'll talk about as we go through it. But here's some good news about it: 90,000 installs. It is popular. It's updated very, very recently. It is a commercial theme, which tells me that this is going to have a free version. That's what's right here, and a paid version. The problem is going to be, I can almost guarantee, but let's load it up and see what we get, and I can tell you what to look for. I'm going to load it up on, I'll stay safe with my Elementor Experiment Press site. I also have a version on local, in case things don't work, and I can show you how I've set up local for this. But let me just go to Appearance Themes. This is a live website. I'm going to go to Add New Theme. I'll go to Royal Elementor.
And I'm going to guess what's going to happen. It's going to require lots of dependencies.
Exactly. So in my list, one of the criteria is, and what you'll find is here's this theme, and all of a sudden it says, and now you have to load Elementor, you have to load this other plugin, you have to, it has all these requirements to make it work, which again might work fine, but know that there are requirements, and there's a lot of stuff that goes along with that. It certainly is well rated. And this is an interesting thing too, when people look at themes and they go, how come when I saw this image, but then when I load it, I'm getting this kind of really, really plain Jane kind of stuff? And it's like, well, probably because this is going to act a lot like there's a theme called the Page Builder Framework, which is meant to be kind of empty, because you're going to use the page builder to do all your design. I just by reading this, all I can see is the word Elementor 50,000 times. Let's just install it and see. Now, if it's Elementor,
this one fails quickly, we'll spin the wheel again, so you can.
My guess is it's a classic theme if it's focused on Elementor. Now, I've installed it. I'm not going to activate it right there, because I want to show another thing, which is when you have an installed theme, you can do, and one of the other reasons why I'm using Experiment Press is because I have things on this site. I have sample content which I can also share at the end. I've exported in case anybody wants to play with sample, which always helps in terms of like, what's this going to look like? So you can go right to a live preview.
And just to
With
pause there for a second, because I think John had asked us before you joined, Peter. So John, this is a way that you can try out a theme. You can install it, just don't activate it. You can do live preview and see what it would look like on your site. If you don't like it, you can just remove it, delete the thing afterwards. So I'm glad you did this one thing, Peter.
So this is a classic theme because it dropped us right into the custom.
Yeah.
If you have a customizer, so let me go ahead, right? Let me just see what we're going to see, because a lot of what you're going to find is there are a lot of similarities between themes. Clearly, I'm going to pull up that list just in terms of some of the things, because I don't know if you're going to reference any of these things too, but some of the things that I look for, right? So active installs, I talked about features, classic block hybrid theme, last update, all that kind of stuff. The theme homepage, this actually had a theme homepage. What elements are actually in the theme versus just images, kind of mentioned that. We'll show, we can demonstrate that as we go. What's in the customizer? That's what we're going to do right now. Does it force plugins, Ray? The point you brought up. Are there recommended plugins? Are there lots of premium version upsells, which you get with some themes? Does it require a specific page builder? I'm guessing if it's called the Royal Elementor kit, that it's going to require that. Then does it have demo content? Is it a response? So I look for responsive design, accessibility. How much does it rely on custom coding and filling out fields and hard-coded features? These last two, especially when we're dealing with older themes or themes you might get off of Theme Forest or other sources. I don't even know if Theme Forest is still, I think there's still a source for plugins. But there can be a lot of things coded deeply into the theme. So when we look at that, so I'm guessing that this one is not going to have a whole lot of things coded deeply in it, because it's meant to have Elementor on it. So let's just first see what we've got in terms of the choices in our customizer, because that's the primary area where you're going to start with colors and typography and things like that. What I'm also going to do is I'm going to look on the front end of Experiment Press. And you can see now I had a very simple homepage, which is all this is, because it's just used for experiments. So, which is good, because that's what I had. I had very, very little there. It's managing the menu a little bit. I think it grabbed a different menu than what I had, but we'll come back to that. So going into the site identity, the good news is for newer themes, this is becoming a bit more universal, consistent, because one of the hardest parts about especially the older themes is handling everything differently. But at least we've got, with this modern one, site identity, which is where you're going to find, okay, what's the logo, the site title, the tagline, am I going to display those or not? So if I just check this box, it's going to add or not add display site title and tagline. Interestingly, it didn't seem to change anything there. I could modify that to something else, but this is where you would go and you would set up the icon that shows up, here, which was already in the theme that I had. So it's respecting that, which is kind of nice. Under colors, this is where it gets kind of interesting, because we're only seeing header text color, and this is what I would do, right? So header. So I might say, okay, we'll make it bright red, but I don't really have header text to show. Let's go to background color. Let's make it purple, which would be terrible. Okay, that's background for the entire site, which is interesting. So this is where you would start seeing how are they at the customizer level. What controls are they giving us here? A background image, just but one image, and let's just say I use this mountain range, and let's see what that, okay, so that is literally just the background. And then you usually have choices like, am I going to scroll with the page? Am I going to repeat it? This is consistent with other things. Again, I look at that as a good sign. If I'm, as I'm, when you're in the customizer, I don't have any content here, but I wonder if I can get, well, that's just a short one, test results. It's funny, these are just pages, but I wanted to see posts. But anyway, scrolling with page just has to do with whether you have a fixed image in the background. Again, I don't design many sites where I'm adding an entire image to the background of it. So it's, to me, this is like, okay, thanks, but I don't really need that. A background color, put in a header image is kind of interesting. So again, nothing is requiring me to use Elementor at this point, which is kind of nice. Say I wanted to do the eagle here, and I'll skip the cropping and let's see what it does. My guess is it's going to put, no, it didn't. So this is the experimenting that we would do.
I wonder, Peter, that once you get through this, I wonder if you're going to see a bunch of error messages when you go back to your dashboard, though. I wonder if you activated it, but you wouldn't see the dependency errors, I think, come up here.
No, that's a good good thought here. I'm very curious because I tried another one earlier and it had header image, you put it, and it literally was the background image for the header area. Here, I'm not sure why that didn't show. Menus. Okay, let's see what we've got. Primary classic menu. Yeah, so this was a test, but it's not showing the drop downs as I would have expected, right? So this is a menu that I had loaded on this, and these are sub menus. So what I would imagine I would see is open this site, test results here, contact us, but it is not paying attention to the sub menus. That's just weird to me. Like,
just for ha-has, try getting out of here. Do a publish and try getting out and go back in. Because I am curious if maybe it's just not even if the customizer isn't working properly. Okay.
So this is another, okay, so when you have an active theme, you saw a new theme, one of the first things you're going to start seeing is the things that they throw at you, right? So, oh, welcome, that's nice, but it might be immediately go buy something. This I don't need. I have Cadence Pro active for some reason, but I'll deactivate that. But all it's telling me is that it's active. It's not telling me anything yet about what's required. Do you see anything else that?
Unless you go to plugins for a second, is there anything in there down your plugins? Does it tell you installed?
No, in plugins, I wonder if they're going to put this on every page. It did not.
It doesn't even tell you need Elementor. That's weird.
Yeah, that's it. I guess that is just making an assumption.
So let me pause you here, Peter. So we spun the wheel on this one. Do you want to move? Do you want to choose your veto at this point? I can spin you another one.
Sure.
Okay.
But I'll tell you, vetoing is a big part of when you're experimenting, trying to find a theme, because you're going to find a lot of stuff.
So let's see. So we started at 15. So let me skip past again. If you joined us late, we're doing random. So that was number 17. So let's skip past 17. Let's start at 18. We'll go up to I'll still stick to 40 just to be safe. So out of 18 to 40, 39. Okay, boy. So this was 18, 19.
Okay. I'm not sure whose screen is being shown. It's still mine.
31, so that's 31, 34, 37. What number did I choose? 37, sorry, 37, 39. So next page, second one. Ooh, Colibri WP. There you go.
Colibri?
Colibri WP. This one looks a little more straightforward.
Okay, one more time.
But it was a good learning thing last one to show the dependencies. And I think you really probably needed to load that full
Yeah.
Elementor kit they're trying to upsell you. So again, sometimes free is not exactly free.
But that's a good lesson, right?
Yeah,
You might go something, go, wait a minute, like to do the thing, I need to do a whole bunch of other things.
right.
One more time on the spelling of this.
It's a Colibri.
Calibri
WP.
WP.
All right, so I'm gonna stop sharing. You can, yep.
Let me take a look.
Oh, look at that. There we go. Beautiful.
All right. Are you seeing my screen now?
Yep, yep, we are.
Okay. All right, great. So Calibri, take a look. A lot of good ratings. Beautiful, extremely customizable, multi-purpose theme that you can use to create. Okay, all right, sounds
You'll
good.
get like 20 minutes on this, and then I'll ring the timer and I'll switch it over, and we can always flip back to you afterwards too.
So one of the things I would do right here is because they're saying we have demos. I'm going to open that up just because I'm like, okay, give me an idea of what environment I'm in. So Calibri has full site website templates. So this is the whole theme, images, layouts. Somebody designed something, they put certain pictures in it, and they say this. So I'm going to keep this in the background in case I need to return to it. So right now, my preview on this is showing me, okay, there's going to be a hero image, and then it looks like it's going to bring in pages or posts. So let me install it. Okay, and then I'm going to do that thing just to see. I'm going to go to this, and I'm going to take a look at the live preview. Just remind people that you have this option to kind of get at least a sneak peek on things, and going, okay. So it has added this header section, and I kind of recognize this style over here. So let me activate it. This is a classic theme. I have the customizer. But you can see in this customizer, and let's go to the home page. And you notice now I have this pretty home page, right?
Hmm.
And the reason I have this pretty home page is this theme, a big part of it is saying, okay, when you're looking at your home page, we're going to add this hero section, this style of doing menus, drop down, and then your content would be below it. So that's used for WordPress experiments. Actually, is the only content on the homepage of there. So okay, that looks pretty interesting. So now let's see how we can control these things. You have the left bar here. You have the little icons for where you can edit things. So say I wanted to edit this menu, I could either find it wherever it is in the menu. And by the way, there's a plugin for if you get a customizer thing that gets really complicated, there is a plugin that allows you to search through your customizer, which is very handy. It's made by the Brainstorm Force people. Or you can come up here, and if you click that, you can say, okay, now I am in my navigation settings, so I can set style. All right, so content, which would be normally picking the menu, but I guess that's somewhere else.
The layout, I think it's the layout thing, Peter, below it. I think that's the content. That, yeah, whether you want the logo on the left or logo above, I think that's
yeah, that's where it is. I'm just saying where I wonder, making what is the menu that it's choosing in case I have multiple menus. Style. Okay, here's an example of, there you go. So Calibri has its own page builder. It doesn't always mean you have to use those, depending on if you're happy here. But when you get into a level of control, it's like, oh, we did that in our Calibri page builder, and if you want to change it, you need to install that. Right. So Ray, I don't know what you would do, Ray. I would probably go, and that looks like it's both for advanced and style. The content here. All right. So I'm not going to change anything there yet. Header, navigation settings, the hero settings. So the hero setting should be this here. And you can usually toggle these things on and off. It says show title, but I don't see the.
Are you still in preview mode or no?
No,
Oh, okay.
I've made it live.
Okay.
So show title is the hero section title. So that's here. So this is an example of where built into the theme are places to do things. So they are saying, if you pick this theme, it's because you want this homepage hero section, and now you can, now like I click the edit, so it's the content of the title, and I can say, experiments site.
Just an observation as you're doing that, it's almost making it look like these are blocks.
Yes.
It's making it look like this is actually a block where you're changing it, through a normal like block editor interface.
Exactly. And that's where you have, and if you've been around in WordPress for a while, this goes back to the days of the Genesis theme, and where everything was about, and that was also in my kind of list is, does the theme rely on widgets and widget areas, and you put things in a widget that they place on a page? 12 years ago, that's how we did things. There's still sites that do that. In fact, Genesis is still available to do that. But there's some examples of where that's kind of built into the theme, where it's like, okay, well, we have very specific areas. Choose header design. Okay, so I'm wondering if they're going to actually give these to me. So say I want this one. So it did pull in, and it's basically, again, just a hero image of a different design, giving you a different color. I'm going to image. I'm guessing this is the background image. Style show.
Okay.
That's the background. So under style. So here's again, now you're doing a lot of your page design, where I would do this using blocks and making that my home page. This is a theme that has those things built into the customizer, and maybe I want I want my background image to be a waterfall.
What's kind of funny, excuse me, Peter, is that it didn't seem like it actually saved that background preview image into your media library.
My guess is it's somewhere in the theme files.
Okay, yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Because that's another thing that happens. So again, let's publish this just to see. Right, this is what we had. So now I've picked a different header design. I would have to change my image here to show this, as because I have black text on almost black here. So this is now where you're working with the different elements. But this hero section in this theme is, again, pretty much all of this stuff that you're seeing until you get to whatever you put below it. And let's, just for fun, let's go to that page. Let me go to that homepage again, and we'll load it here. Let me edit the page. And just to show you how you can do this at home, I'm going to put in a query loop. I'm going to choose a pattern.
So you're adding your blog entries into the page to see what it'll look like in that.
Exactly.
Right? Yeah.
Exactly. And then I should put, let's just put some there. Right. So this is the sample data that I have in here. So now that I've saved that, that's the actual page content now. Let me come back here. I'm going to refresh this. This is now the home page. I've resaved that home page, and now I should see different content down here. All right, because that's the actual content of the page, which is just to show that this whole header section is completely controlled by the theme, which is all.
So the weird thing about that, I see Paul raise his hand. The weird thing I would say about that is that would be a little bit confusing to me, in the sense of, if I was debugging this site, I would be looking for this. Your awesome site title goes here on the home page. I would not have thought to, like, go and look at it inside of the customizer. You know what I mean? Paul, go ahead. I think you should be able to unmute yourself.
I'll do that.
I went to the theme homepage and I noticed that Calibri is actually a page builder, and it seems to integrate with the customizer. It adds features to the customizer. So it
Yeah,
looks like if you don't use their page builder, you're going to run into problems trying to make changes to the theme without using that Calibri customize. So this isn't just a plain theme.
Hmm.
It's a theme that comes with a page builder that they're trying to promote as well.
But one thing that's interesting, that's a great point, Paul, is like what so far what Peter has shown so far, and this is where the lines blur a little bit. Everything
yeah,
he's done has only been by installing the theme. He has not, so typically we think page builders, we tend to think, well, like Elementor, for example, includes a plugin, right? That's going to do the page builder portion of it. This theme seems like it has like a light page builder attached to the theme itself, which is allowing him to do that stuff in the header. But if he wants to start using that page builder on pages outside of the customizer, maybe that's where he needs the actual Calibri page builder plugin or something else installed.
that's right. And what's kind of interesting about that is that showing me that there's a level of builder here, but then when you see what else I have, it's like, oh, you want that? Now you need to use the builder. And again, now we get into, and it costs whatever it costs. It's a month, it's a subscription fee kind of thing. So yeah, there's so many different ways to do this. One of the things I was doing over here, just to
I
see if I
will say
can.
it's kind of neat though, because that thing you were showing about flipping around the hero section, while it may be confusing to somebody coming to it afterwards, if you're not a coder, having that in that customizer is pretty powerful because
Yeah,
basically you're allowing them to see these different patterns of, how do you want your hero to display? So they're just selecting, sort of like when I'll show later the block themes. That's basically what the block themes are letting you do is select patterns. So this
yeah.
is, I wonder if this one's almost like a hybrid type of thing.
So okay, there's your background color. I think one of the other things is to look, okay, how do you handle posts? Because of course, pages and posts are very are a lot of the things that have to deal with the design. You will have a specific post layout and you'll have a specific page layout. So let me open. I'm just kind of curious now. All right, the layout's pretty similar, right? So big blue area with the top on. I wonder if in the customizer, I'm coming back to the customizer, if I go to, yeah, I don't see page or post controls,
Why don't you
which
go, Peter, go onto the post that you just created and bring up the customizer there. I wonder if it's going to be in context sometimes, like,
very
actually look at that. Now bring up the customizer.
post. Perfect. Okay, so let's do that.
I know Cadence kind of does that. Nope.
No.
Oh, blog settings. There's a little something there. See where it says content blog settings. I don't know if that's like,
Okay. Post per row. So that would be the blog archive.
right, right. Never mind. That's for the
The
homepage.
old blog sidebar,
But
which
not
is
for a
set to,
single post type.
I don't have the sidebar. I haven't used the sidebar in quite a long time.
So
Thumbnail.
just sort of step back for others. So Peter was looking inside of so the customizer itself is really up to the theme developer to say what
Yes.
do they want you allow you to customize. So in a classic theme, so some classic themes allow you to customize lots of stuff, like for example, the layout of a single post type. This one doesn't look like it lets you do that. It looks like it lets you do in the free version. It doesn't let you do that.
Right. Right.
It's letting you do that just the homepage stuff or site-wide stuff.
Yeah, and what you'll find in classic themes using there are like homepage settings feels like it's like, oh, how I do my homepage. It actually isn't. It's, and this seems to be pretty consistent. It's the, is your homepage a static page or is it my latest post? Let's make it the latest post because and I'll show you the difference in here. So let me close this. This is what it is right now, right? So this happens to be a post that I'm using a query block. Let's see what their default is. If I go to, I'm going to make it my latest posts. Okay. I'm going to publish that. Come over here. So what this has done now, I dropped the query loop in and I didn't do anything with it. I just picked one thing and didn't do any styling. But here's another thing that what you will find is with themes, with classic themes, a lot of times what you're going to find is, okay, the heading, and then what is the blog post section look like? Because again, WordPress is a blogging, it's based on blogging software. Posts are handled way differently than the pages, and it's filterable, and so the default for handling posts in this Calibri, and I've got my little thing that I built here so I can other stuff. Anyway, this is what posts look. We come over here, we don't have the ability to change that.
Well, now I think you can use your customizer for the blog settings. So now in the left there it says content. Yeah, go back to your customizer. Now I think at least because you're displaying the archive here on your homepage, right? So now I think is where you can start to adjust the elements you display.
So under content, under blog settings, right?
Yeah, so if you try to like remove maybe the metadata or something, or show the columns per row, switch that to something like.
Got to get the page builder one.
Yeah, try switching the columns to 3. Or I'm sorry, your post per row to 3.
Yeah. So that's the one thing we can change.
Paul, go ahead.
What was that? Is there a question?
Sorry. Let me ask. Sorry, you unmute yourself, Paul. Sorry. Paul, you got to unmute yourself.
Yeah. Okay. Since I'm kind of new to WordPress, my understanding is that the classic themes do not give you the ability to edit the header and footer. But I noticed going through some of the features of the Calibri homepage, when you add that Calibri page builder, it actually enables you to edit the header.
Yeah.
So it seems to enhance the abilities of it. It links to the default customizer and seems to give you additional functionality that you wouldn't normally have in a standard classic theme.
You're absolutely right. That's where I would almost say this is almost a hybrid with a small h. Meaning there's another term people use for hybrid, which is sort of between a classic theme and what I'm going to show shortly, the full site editor. This one is a classic theme that has added some functionality that lets you, it's sort of like, I don't know, like Peter, what would you consider Cadence, the one we always show, the plain version of Cadence? That's a classic theme, right?
Yeah. So that's a great point. And I'll tell you what, after you're done, when we get to the second half, and Paul, if you're still on a call, we'll show you this idea of it's not that you can't edit the header and footer. It's dependent on what the theme built into it and what you could do through the customizer and how much control they give you. And there are a lot of really good themes. I say a lot. There are a few really good themes that give you total control, like a theme like Cadence, Generate Press, Astra, and all, where you have a crazy amount of control. It's just that the control is not in the full site editing experience where you're like, oh, now I'm clicking here and doing the page. Now I'm clicking here and doing it and using just blocks.
It's limited control, I think, is the way to say it. Yeah.
It's controlled control. How's that? Now here's one thing that's kind of really interesting. And I wouldn't mind showing this a little bit later on, which is in the Cadence theme. And I don't mean to keep saying Cadence, it just happens to be a thing I use. There is a header builder and a footer builder that gives you tons of control. That is now a separate block. So that if you have a full site editing theme and you want to use that as a way of creating, controlling your header and footer, but using a full site editing theme in that area, you can put the blocks. The whole point is in full site editing, you can put blocks in the header and footer, and edit it just like you would edit any other content. The Cadence team has built a header and footer tool for doing that. I think they have the footer. I'm not really sure now that I say it out loud. But anyway, we can come back to that. But yes, this is absolutely one of the things that you're going to find from theme to theme is how much control and layout capability do you have in any of the areas that you have. And you can see it's relatively limited. While you have some nice control and there's some nice things built in, I'm not sure.
It's probably not bad though. I mean, honestly, compare this to like what was around this time, the WordPress 2019 theme or something. This is a hell of a lot more powerful than that. It's giving you a lot of control, like the footer, for example, that kind of stuff. So
absolutely, the main thing being here is that again, that homepage main landing section seems to be the place where you've got kind of the most amount of control in terms of like design elements that they've built into it in the free version, and then how you're showing the blog posts on it, and then building out from there. Ray, you want to grab it and then we can come back?
One more exciting thing I'd like to see before you leave this. There's that button there that says, no, go back. Sorry, go back, Peter. Where it says content and you see blog settings, there's a button that says add a predefined section below it. What does that do? Oh. So that's the hybrid. I think that's where you'd be able to add something between the blog section and that other hero.
So what is that? That feels like Divi to me.
Kind of, yeah. Divi is more just a page builder. It won't let you do that like through the customizer.
But this idea, in a lot of ways too, it's like a lot of times the customizer is just a different interface for doing. I'll put an extra thing here,
right,
and then design it that way.
We look at one more thing, Peter. Sorry, I'm driving you around, but can you go back to your dashboard for a second? So again, when we talk classic themes, and this is probably, I assume this one probably does not behave like this, but in the past, a lot of older classic themes also had a lot of configuration in just the theme settings. So I wonder when you go here, this theme, where is it? Oh, it doesn't have its own. Can you go on maybe appearance, perhaps? Peter, is there something underneath there under appearance? Appearance.
Oh, you mean like their own?
Yeah, they have their own. Yeah, there you go. So what is in here?
Yeah, great. Install the builder, one click.
Right.
Forminator, one click to install their favored form building.
At least the other things are just links to the customizer. So sometimes if you look at older themes, I've worked on many of those, this is where you would find all of those settings to say, where do I put my site logo? Where do I put this? Where do I put that? It's like it's in another place outside of the customizer. So at least I will give this random theme credit that it's pulled a lot of stuff at least into the customizer. So for newer people, it's not bad. What would you grade this on A through?
Yeah, no, Oh, you're asking the wrong person, because I just look at these and go, you don't need to do these things in 2025 that same way. On a pain scale, it is a low pain level of 2. On a functional, like if all you need is a blog post, I want to have a little control over that image, sure, it's 7.
Yeah.
I see.
Yeah.
There's a few too many things that you're going to go, oh, I want to be able to do something, and now you have to do the page builder, and adding yet another page builder can be its own problem versus kind of the top ones.
But if you're looking for a site, let's say you're looking for a site that's primarily blog focused, you want a hero section in the front, you could do worse than this.
100%. Exactly. If you're doing a blog,
a ring endorsement put on this site, you can do worse than this one.
But that is of the what do we 13,000 themes or whatever the number is. There are probably 12,592 worse than this, if not more.
Hey, Paul, unless it's Paul, I think it might be your audio that you can't hear us, because Peter, you can hear me still, right?
I can hear you fine, yeah.
Okay. All right, well, tell you what, let me take the ball for a minute, and I'll
Okay.
be the victim this time, and I'll have to
You'll have to roll your own because I'm not sure how
have to
exactly.
roll my own here.
Roll
So,
your own, man.
all right, so let me go back now. So the difference is again, so Peter did a classic theme, and what I'm going to do a block theme, and I'll explain what the difference is again if you're new, like what is a block theme? And
The number one thing is the customizer versus
right, right.
the
So
whole full
block
site.
themes, I don't think there's quite as many of them. So I think I should be okay just doing the roll from, oops, sorry.
Oh, yeah, pre-select block theme as your
Yeah,
filter.
I'm on block themes here. And let me start from one, I'll do 1 to 30, just like, and I get one veto. So I'm on 15. All right, so we're gonna go to number 15. So 3, 6, 9, 12, 3, 6, 9, 12. So it'll be the third one and the second one. Ooh, Eternal Agency. Let's see what this
Ooh,
It's a child. No, it's a child theme of Eternal. So let me talk about that because I may veto
yeah,
this one.
perfect. I think that's a good idea.
I may veto it, but this is a good example of. Um, so what is this? Just again for people who are very new, we talked about this several years ago in person. But so what is a child theme? I may actually have something here about themes. Okay, yeah, so let me make this a little bit bigger. Sorry, I have these are just my notes to myself, but give me one second, make it a little larger. Here we go. So the WordPress loading hierarchy, again, if you're very familiar, if you're new to WordPress, I should say, the way that WordPress um, loads things and uses things, there's a hierarchy, which kind of makes it very powerful because you can always override things. That's kind of the term. But the way things typically work in WordPress for a theme, at least, is by default, WordPress itself, kind of all the core WordPress functionality is the default. So even if you don't have, let's say, a template, WordPress will default to its own index.php or something like that. So there's always a lower level thing. Then your theme will be the thing that overrides what WordPress has. So it may completely override it or modify it, etc. The third thing is child themes, which we're not really going to talk about tonight, but I have to because of this one. So what's a
Yeah.
child theme? A child theme is a slight variation, as the name implies, of a parent theme. So a child theme may modify very little. Some cases it doesn't have to modify anything, but a child theme, it may just modify styling, but everything else is all the same. And then finally, when we come to block themes, et cetera, there's user configuration. So this hierarchy, again, starts from the bottom and works its way up. So I just want to bring that up because this theme is, in fact, we talked about dependencies a minute ago with the Elementor one Peter picked. Just a general rule of thumb, this is just software developer thing, is dependencies in general are, I shouldn't say they're a problem because they're everywhere, but they cause headaches because it means you can't do something without something else. And if the other thing breaks, things become hard to, diagnose. So anyway, so this guy, Eternal Agency, says, oh, it's a child theme of Eternal. So we first need to look at what Eternal is because this theme won't work properly unless I first have this Eternal theme installed. So this Eternal theme, I wonder if this is a block theme. Yes, this is a block theme. It's a full site editor block theme. So what I'm assuming is this is probably a very generic block theme, and I'm assuming the agency one is probably just styling based on for an agency. So I'm still, let's see, do I want to veto this or do I not want to veto it? This doesn't sound too bad. In fact, this may be an interesting one to do. So I'm gonna have to do two things here though. I'm first gonna have to install Eternal and then I'm gonna have to install Eternal Agency. So this might be a good, let me do this kind of quickly. I have my demo site up over here. Let me go to my themes. And I'm gonna try to do it as if I had no idea what I'm doing, which sometimes I don't. And
Yeah.
let me search for Eternal. Let me just search for Eternal first off. Here we go. So I'm gonna just do Eternal Agency and say, okay, I like this thing. I'm brave. I'm like Peter. I'm just gonna install the thing. In general, a child theme without the parent theme should give me a warning. Just in general rule of thumb, it should tell me, hey, you need a parent theme. Oh, this guy, look what he did though. He or
Loaded
she,
it.
he loaded it for me. I said, not only do you need it, I'm gonna give it to you, and then forget this other one's auto themes is just there on the side. So because I still have my search in here. So it basically installed both for me, which, okay, I guess that's good, so this will give me maybe a chance later. I'll talk about so how can you tell the difference between these? In fact, right now, the thing that's funny is neither one of them is active yet. So at this point, I can either show you Eternal or I can show you Eternal Agency. I'm going to show you Eternal Agency because that's what the wheels spun for me. So I'm going to activate Eternal Agency. So again, a child theme, it's saying, all right, it's a child theme, check out the theme demo. If I want to, I can import the entire demo site. So that's kind of neat. This goes back to what Peter said before. A lot of times when you look at a theme on the repository or theme forest or wherever, what you see is not what you really get, right? Because you look at something, it has all these pretty pictures, everything looks beautiful. You load it and you have nothing. You have a blank canvas. You're like, what happened? Where'd everything go? Well, in this case, it's saying I can actually import all of that stuff so it looks just like it did as what I previewed. That may sound good. The trade-off is if I really want to change my site, I'm gonna have all this junk loaded into my media library that I don't want, right? So just for the sake of this demo, I'm not going to install the demo site. I'm just going to use it kind of as is. So what did it do? And in fact, I'm going to do something else too. I'm going to go because I want to talk about themes, block themes in a little bit more detail. So I'm going to go to, oops, not your thing, Peter, sorry. I'm going to download the parent theme. I'll show you that in a second. So again, remember about themes themselves. You can install themes multiple ways. You can install themes through the WordPress repository, just like we showed. And in fact, anything off the repository, that's typically how you want to install it because it's built into your site. You want to click a button, you could preview, all that good stuff. But themes themselves are really just files. And a theme is I just downloaded it here. I don't know if you saw it, it downloaded a zip file to my computer. So on my computer under downloads right now, I have Eternal, the zip file, and I'm going to unzip it right now. So again, the nice thing about WordPress is everything is visible there. There's nothing kind of hidden. So I want to show you real quick I won't get into a lot of code, but what's in that file. So I have Visual Studio, it's just another application. I'm going to open up a folder and I'm going to open up this is under downloads and it was called date modified Eternal. So I'm going to open that folder up. So here it is. Here's the theme itself. We didn't look at this when Peter showed the classic theme. We could have. One big difference is, I don't know if this is always true, so take this with a grain of salt, but in general, you should be able to view your theme files in a classic theme through the WordPress back end, as long as you're an administrator and as long as there's not another plugin hiding that stuff for you. That's the caveats. But in general, like when Peter was looking at his theme under appearance, Peter, you can check this while sort of in the background, but there should be a edit theme button or something like that, which would allow him to then edit those theme files or view them. And you'll get warnings like don't start changing theme files behind the scenes. But just my point is, you can view what's inside of a theme, the code behind it. So I'll talk about this real quick of again what makes a full site editor theme. Because this looks different than what he would have shown or what he would have seen. In particular, I think I'll put some links into the chat later too. Some differences between classic and a block theme from the code level is a block theme actually does not require an index.php file. You can have one. It does require an index.html file. So index.php, for people who aren't familiar, typically when a site loads, that's the very first file that gets looked for on a site. In this case, for block theme, you don't need that. You need index.html. And then the structure of the block themes from a directory standpoint are a little bit different than what you would have seen from a classic theme standpoint. So I'll show that in a second. So the underneath it, you have templates, parts, and styles. And this is the big thing here, theme.json. So .json is a file type that says, with a JavaScript object notation. It's just a way, it's like an XML or HTML. It's kind of like a structured format or semi-structured, like key value pair format. But that's where you put all your settings for a theme. When I say you, the theme developer, the person who created the theme is basically telling you, the theme user, what you can configure. So all that configurability that Peter showed in the customizer, that's all defined in a theme.json. So it's kind of a neat idea. It's something that you can see. In fact, so I'll take a quick look at it and then I'll play more of the theme on WordPress. But anyway, if you look at this thing, theme.json, it's saying here's what it's going to expose to me. So I'm going to have a header template part, a footer, a comments, a sidebar, and then all these settings. So just to pick on one of these, for example, it's going to set border radius as 3 pixels. So it's going to say the small border radius, we'll look at this, should be 3 pixels, the medium should be 12, the large should be 24. So these are the presets. So the theme designer is making some decisions for me saying, hey, I decided that a good looking border radius for my theme for consistency's sake is small's 3, medium is 4 times that, and large is, double a medium kind of deal. So that's the kind of design decisions that the theme developer has made for me. And just to show you again, so styling wise, this is just kind of blank stuff, but the templates, all of these things, just keep this in mind. There's a 404. This is showing what I'm able to customize beyond what, like Peter showed from a classic theme. So it's going to allow me to change not just the pages that Peter showed, like the footer and the header. I'm going to be able to change like my 404 page. So what's a 404? It's when you get a page not found. I'm going to be able to customize that and show that. I'll get to you in 1 second, Paul. And then the other things is showing too is there's also certain styles. We'll look at that in a minute too. So within my style selector, I'm going to have the ability to say, again, think about this. This is, what does an accountant want or versus an auto center? There's going to be different color patterns. And finally, patterns. These are all the reusable patterns we'll take a look at in a second that I can have pre-built layouts. That could be a full page, that could be part of a page, it could be sections, et cetera, et cetera. So one of the big differences is, again, from a block theme to a classic theme is, a block theme really gives you, I think I had it here in one of these guys. A block theme gives you this ability. So not only does a block theme have that other hierarchy, I talk about child themes and all that stuff, a block theme itself is really made up of blocks, block patterns, template parts, templates, and then the theme. So it's a theme made of blocks at different levels. Paul, go ahead. I think you should be able to unmute.
Yeah, question.
Sure.
Yeah.
The templates, the theme.json file, since they all come with the theme, when the theme, if I make any changes to any one of those files, when the theme is upgraded or updates, won't those files be overridden with the default files that come in with the theme?
Yes, but here's one magic way to make your own copy of a theme without any coding at all. There is a plugin called, it's created by WordPress.org. That was a great segue, Paul. It is called Create Block Theme. This is a funny named plugin. I'm not sure how many people play around with this. We may want to do a whole separate thing on it at some point, or for our summer school deal. This is a plugin that allows you to either create a block theme from scratch, completely from scratch, just putting all the parts together. Or the other funny thing is this allows you to create what's called a variation. So kind of create a child theme from an active parent theme. So you can basically make all these style changes, all that kind of stuff, and then you're almost cloning it. So at that point, it's no longer the eternal theme, it's Paul's eternal theme. So yes, now you own it. So whatever happens, you sort of forked it off. So you can do whatever you want with it at that point. So any changes, you've kind of broken it, basically, not broken it. You've created your own version. So anything that happens to the eternal theme, you won't get any of those updates. But maybe you're happy with that, and you say, okay, I changed it for some specific reason. So yes, this is again, this plugin is probably the simplest way to do that. There's other ways from child. So that's a child theme. Back to the classic thing Peter was talking about was also another way to change a parent theme without necessarily breaking the parent theme, although you could. So, all right, but let me show you. So I'm showing you code. I can jump back to it later if anyone's interested, but let's look at this actual theme itself. So I have the Eternal Agency, and that's the one that I believe I made active. Yep. So my site just has a little bit of, a little bit of content. This is my demo site. Oh, okay. kind of neat. So it's taken my menu, which is, again, it turned my menu into sort of a pillbox thing. So whatever page is active, it doesn't really highlight, but okay. It kind of, maybe because it makes this makes my last button my call to action button, but it's kind of interesting. So it's done some styling on the menu itself. It's got this the image in the back, that's sort of static fixed image. It's created a whole homepage for me because this is all demo content that it's thrown in here because I'm definitely didn't add any of this stuff, and it's styled my footer. So interesting. So it's done some styling, but okay, so for all right now, if you just looked at it, you say, Ray, okay, that just looks like a classic theme to me. It looks basically like what Peter showed. Where the difference really comes in is the parts that it put in place. So there's two ways to get to a full site editor. One thing, for example, you'll notice is there's no customizer here for a block theme. The way that you edit kind of the things that Peter was showing is you go under appearance editor, or back up here, there was, I think when I was back on the home page up here, there was also another spot to go to the editor from here. I think my window just hit it for a second, but let me go to appearance editor. So this is the full site editor admin screen, if you will. So here's all the things that this theme has actually done. So first off, navigation is just my menu. So that's really nothing. That shows up for any full site editor or block theme. Styles, here's the first time I get to see the palettes that this thing has allowed me to change. So let's look at these for a second. So, I should well, I won't touch the child theme. So the way I can see these different styles is if I click on here, I can browse the style. So if you recall, right now it's saying, what are my different palettes? This one default, I have 4, 2, 3, Accountant, Angus. So remember this auto center thing? What does this look like as an auto center? Doesn't seem to make a lot of difference on this page, but what was that auto center thing? It was, sorry, my Zoom window is blocking. Auto center was this style called auto center. So it's setting some colors. FFF is, I always forget if it's white or black. It's one or the other. One's white, all F's is white, or all zeros is white, whatever. So it's saying all these accent colors are really defined in this styles thing. So there should be one in here called newspaper. Let's see, what is this one called? Dark interior design. There's newspaper. So what is this doing? Probably on this page, I don't see much of it, but it will be changing things like, oh, there you go, my headlines, my backgrounds, et cetera, et cetera. So a block editor, not all of them, again, this will vary, but a well-built block theme should give you some style variations. Now, are you going to use them? Maybe, maybe not. Maybe I don't want auto center or whatever, newspaper, but that's one big difference, is it will give you sort of built-in styling you can use. The other parts are, so we'll skip pages, that's just my pages I created. The other two big things that a block theme will give you is pre-built templates and patterns. So let's look at the 404, because I haven't touched that at all yet. So this is saying that my 404 page for the site is going to look like this. So let me just show you first what it'll look like. Page not found. It's going to give me a search bar. It's going to give me this text. That looks great. So what is a 404 page? So if you go to my goofy site here, and if I type in a page that doesn't exist, so / gibberish, there we go. So that's your 404 page. I didn't create that. That came with the theme. And if I don't like this, if I say, I don't want to put a search bar there, I mean, I think I would, because maybe they typed this in incorrectly. But if I want to change that, the full site editor, one of the nice things about that is I can copy this, or I can edit it, I guess, directly from here, and I can start to remove things. So I can say, yeah, I don't want that search bar. In fact, I'm going to delete it and then save this. I was ready if it saves it as a copy or not. So it's a site-wide change. Now, if I type in another bogus page, let's say, suppose I can test the same thing. There we go. So now the search bar is gone. So that's one of the big differences. Like, so when Peter was showing it, everything was within the customizer. This thing is actually exposing templates to me. So, and here's some templates because it's a child theme called Agency. It has its own templates. There's the parent theme had templates, etc. So that's one neat thing. It gives you like a bigger array of control besides just headers and footers. And then I'll kind of look at one final thing here is patterns. So the other neat thing too is that block themes, if you look back at what I showed here at this hierarchy overview of a block theme. So remember, block themes are made up of blocks, block patterns, template parts, templates, and themes. So we've already looked at templates. Template parts are more like header and footer. So block patterns are these things. So these are things you can reuse anywhere. I mean, some of them, so let's look at one, for example, this pricing table, 3-column. Hold on a second. Let's do my thing froze here for a second. Oops, I have too many tabs open. Pricing table. Oh, I have to duplicate it in order to look at it. Yep. Okay, so patterns, you can't, if I want to change it, it's thinking I want to change it. But if I just want to use it, maybe that's a better thing to do. So it's called pricing table, 3 columns. Sorry, let me go to a page here. I'll use my sample page, for example. All those patterns that it exposed to me in that block editor are available to me here. So if I want to add a new, adding something to this page, if I look at patterns, if I look at the, what was that one called again? That was called 3 columns or something. Oh, the pricing table, 3 columns. This is the copy I made, but here's all the patterns that came with the theme. Here's that pricing table. So let's say I want a 2-column pricing table. That's kind of neat, so now it's like I don't have to style this thing. It basically gave me this nicely rounded 2-column thing. So would I install an entire theme just for some patterns? Probably not. And as we talked about before, if you watch some of our previous meetup discussions around blocks themselves, at this point, I can basically just copy this pattern and save it to myself and get rid of the whole theme because this styling does not necessarily require a theme, not necessarily. Again, 99% of the time it doesn't. So, but that's one big difference. Not only is Peter showing the classic one gave him control of headers and footers, block themes also give you block patterns, templates, et cetera, et cetera. So just a lot more control. I'll shut up there for a second. I don't know if any questions came up or if that, Peter, do you have any addition?
Well, yeah, let me jump in. Sue did mention looking at Gel Team, she had to run, but I think you covered some stuff right about the time she was asking, so that was good. The thing about WordPress is that there are no absolute answers to anything, quite honestly. So Ray, as you're describing some of the things that you can and can't do, it's also dependent on what theme you're using, whether it's classic or block, right? So there are classic themes that offer way more control than the one we saw, for example. There are themes that both classic and not that include their own set of patterns. It all depends on what that developer has decided to put into that theme. One of the things that's really interesting is there's a designer. His name is Brian Gardner. He's been around for a very, very long time. He was part of Genesis, which was, again, that theme from way back when. Very, very well-known guy. He develops his own themes. And we've had discussions about how sometimes the debate is what you do or don't put into the theme and all the variations, or do you strip all of that back? And that constant debate of, well, what is a theme anyway right now? So it's a very interesting approach. Like all of these things that, we're saying, well, you can or can't do it. All of them also have the answers of, well, it depends, right? It depends on what the developer has done.
And some of that, so even that's a great point too, going back to the block theme that I showed, there are block themes that have a lot less than what I showed, meaning if the developer said, I don't want to have that many style choices, I don't want to count it and all that, I'm just going to give you 1 or 2. And in fact, if you go back to when did block themes really start, probably WordPress with like the WordPress 2019 theme or so, or 2020, somewhere around there. That one had very little because they were just beginning to do full site editor. So it's a lot of this stuff. again, I work with some clients who have really, really old themes, ones we don't even talk about, ones that were built using advanced custom fields and hand-coded PHP. So from that, again, if you look at this from that world, it used to be that world, unless you were a developer or unless you paid your developer, most people couldn't change anything. Templates, headers. What you could change is what the developer used to expose to you, perhaps through things like custom fields and meta boxes. So that was the old world, which there's still plenty of those sites out there. I think,
Oh,
hopefully they're dying, but that's the old sites. And then we got to kind of classic themes where, as Peter showed too, it's like the customizer was the first revolution to say, oh, I can at least change my header or change an icon here. I don't have to call my developer. And now I think but again, it was all depending on what the person allowed you to do even there. And then full site editor, the dream is you don't ever need a developer, which isn't entirely true because as hopefully we both showed, even the block themes, there's still some decision making that the theme developer had. They're the ones who said, sorry, just share my screen one more time. They're the ones who decided what goes into, I get this window blocking stuff again, sorry. They're the ones who decided what goes into here, right? They're the ones who built those patterns. The theme developer decided what styles to make available, et cetera, et cetera. So there is, even though it's full site editing, yeah, you can do everything within certain limits you can, but it's a heck of a lot better than way, way, way back when you basically couldn't do anything unless you were a developer. So hopefully that, again, we still have a bit of time. I switched this so everyone can unmute yourselves if you have any questions and stuff. But any other questions that came up? DK on the drums. Go ahead there.
As soon as I can play drums, but I can't find microphone mute buttons. Yeah, I just wanted to say, so you've got a lot of uptake here and interest on people paying attention to classic themes versus the, in my opinion, wrongfully named full site editing theme. What a bunch of confusion there. But the focus is, of course, on editing headers and footers, so hence full site editing. However, when you talk about full site editing themes giving you access to patterns and stuff, don't think that you're prohibited from using those patterns in block friendly themes that are not full site editing. Just to remind myself, because it's been so long since I don't use either one of those type of themes, I do something totally different. But I just went to the pattern repository, wordpress.org/patterns.
Yeah.
I copied the first pattern I found and I went and plopped it right into one of my non full site editing sites. Works fine.
And that was the point I was making. Now, if you caught that too, in terms of that pricing table I looked at, I said, oh, there's a pattern that was included with the theme, but I could just basically copy that pattern, literally copy and paste that pattern into a block, into any block, and to any modern WordPress classic theme, whatever you want to call it. So yeah, the thing is, those themes, I guess the difference is those patterns included in that theme are not ones you would find on the WordPress pattern repository. They're kind of buried in those themes, if you know what I mean. So
oh, I see. Yeah, the ones that come with the theme.
Right.
Yeah.
Let's,
The other thing to remember is it's all a learning process, and at least 50% of the advantage of seeing those patterns is just so you can dissect them and see how it's done.
Right.
Yeah.
Because in the future, you're probably going to build it yourself anyway, constructing the fundamental blocks.
Right.
Yeah,
So,
at least that's
it. I mean, Elementor, and I'll get to you in a second, Paul, too. It's like, I think that's always been the most exciting thing about Gutenberg, whatever you call it. It's because how many times did you have to recreate that stupid pricing table back in the old days? And that's why people loved page builders. That's what a lot of page builders would give you, would be the pricing table widget. And now when you look at it, it's like, well, isn't that just basically a header and 3 columns and all this? Like, why do I need a special widget? Just give me that pattern. I don't need another super specific thing for it.
That's a great point. And then adding to that you can save your own patterns once you've come up with them.
Right.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Paul, go ahead.
Yeah, I have a question. You mentioned the first block theme. That was actually 2022 was the first block theme.
Okay.
That was released with WordPress 5.9.
Okay.
So that was the actual first one. My question is, and this is kind of for the entire group, when you sit down with a client to gather requirements, do you have a core set of themes that you have worked with in the past that you're familiar with, and you select from there rather than just let a client, willy-nilly go look somewhere and find a theme? Because I heard Cadence mentioned quite a bit. Is that one of your go-to themes that you use to, when you deal with a client, these are the themes I work with, and let's select from there and I'll customize? Or do you just let them, run wild in the theme
I'll let Peter
repository?
answer it first, and then I'll come back to it.
Yeah. Okay, so I use one theme. I haven't found any reason. I used to use a theme called way back when Genesis. Then I moved to a really good theme that's still a great theme called Astra. Then I moved to Cadence. And only for reasons of it did what I wanted. And quite honestly, there was pro versions at a lifetime deal, but it happened to be a great, great product. I have that for both Cadence and all. In my opinion, there's too much of I pick a theme because of the pictures that I see on a screen, which you just don't need to do in 2025. It's much better to I have a theme that I know is super efficient, gives me the flexibility that I need, is well coded, is responsive, work on mobile, has paid attention to things like accessibility, and then everything else that I can, as long as I don't pick a theme where I can't make something work. I've got like a theme like Cadence, and I've got this short list. Generate Press is another great one where you can do anything you want, just get really good at it. And then all you're using themes now with a client at that point is inspirational. What do you want to look like? Because I can look at any theme and go, this is how I would build it in the blocks that I use, which would be core blocks, cadence blocks. I don't even need any other blocks now because there's a lot of redundancy. But I look at any theme and go, that's just a bunch of blocks put together a certain way, and I have the tools to do that. So, right.
And I'm the same. I'm later to the Cadence party than Peter was. Peter sold me for later after then I got the lifetime deal too. And it's not just because it's a lifetime deal. I think just exactly what he said. And he said earlier on too, getting good at any theme alone will make you more productive as opposed to bouncing from theme to theme. And for a long time, I was when I first started was using Divi because at that time there was no Cadence, and from a page builder standpoint, I just felt more comfortable with it. And I think Elementor came a little bit later and all that. But I got good enough with Divi, but then it was all these other issues with just the page builders themselves being very slow and sluggish and all that. So Cadence to me was the first theme I'd say where I settled on. I like it. It's easy to work with, and as Peter said, you can basically build anything because if Cadence doesn't have the block because it's a block enabled kind of theme, I can just get a block from somewhere else or copy one from the pattern repository. And the other thing I kind of was laughing, Paul, when you're asking that, like I never ever talk themes with my clients. They shouldn't know that. It's for me, it's more design and then I'm like, can I build it? 99% of the time, yes, I can.
What websites are you drawn to? What do you like as an example? Ray, can I grab the screen?
Yeah.
I'm talking about some things that I think is appropriate to this, which is this whole concept of patterns. You can see my screen now?
Yeah.
Okay. There's a lot of different ways. I've got some notes on this that I pull up the side, but I know we're coming up at the top, but there are a number of tools. Let me get my notes. Where the patterns are so well designed, and especially once you can find if they're built off of core blocks, you're not going to run into any issues. There are plenty of really great patterns. Cadence has a block plugin that gives you a lot of designs. that also comes with a library of patterns that you can use. But let me show you examples of, and one of my favorites is a website called Tyler.com. It's even got a lot of AI driven into it. This was something I was practicing before. But here's an example of, here are a bunch of, you would look at it and go, oh, those are themes. They're not themes. They are themed block patterns. And that's another way to go, right? So you get a lot of block patterns that work well together, which is like the Cadence library, things like that. So now you're just pulling together, somebody designed some things really nicely, and you have confidence that if I use them together, they're going to look really nice. Here's what's really nice about this example, right? So this is a version of like what the WordPress.org/patterns that DK had mentioned earlier, a repository for patterns. But now this is a guy, I forget his first name. His last name is Tyler, I think. That he's got all of these patterns again that look like themes. If I go into any one of them, say I'm attracted to, well, I don't even know why I'm overthinking this, but say, I'm looking at this one. I click on that. Now, when I look at that, it's going to show me this is a full design, and where I can go and grab any one of these sections. I can copy that section. I can copy the section, and I can paste it in one, or I can even go copy the entire page. This is just a playground version. Let me go to, I'm going to add a new page, and I'm just going to say, so I'll just put pattern sample here. Doesn't matter. But if I come and paste, I can paste that, and it has pasted that entire, because it's just blocks. And in this case, he's linking back to his library of images, right? You would want to replace those. But here's an example of, if I publish this and then view it, that page now has all of those blocks as I had copied from over here. It looks, in this case, exactly the same, partly because I'm using his theme called Variations, which is a very clean, doesn't do a lot of controlling of things. So this all pasted in very, very nicely. But at the same time, these are just blocks. I can look and see, as DK mentioned, right? You can see, how did he make these things? These are just core blocks. And if I want to change this content, I can change that content. This is where I think is more of the power of using patterns that work together with a design that you can stack and use on your pages.
The one thing that, and I think you said this, Peter, too, the one thing where the theme, so again, why would I even need a theme? Why don't I just use a blank thing and copy it? Themes, going back to the whole thing about the intent of the developer of the theme, themes, there are some good things to do at the theme level, which is provide consistency of design. So back to that styling thing I showed, or style books. I mean, you don't need a theme to do that. As long as you're doing it someplace, like you want to set consistent fonts, typography, colors, right, things like that, maybe button sizes. So that's the kind of, so if you're just copying patterns and pasting pages, not to say that Peter is doing that, but if you start doing that, that's fine, but then your whole site could look kind of jumbled. You're like, why is this one Helvetica and this one is Times New Roman? Yep. It could look really weird. So what if at the theme level, you still probably want a place where you do define what's called like your style book. So on classic themes, that's one thing that they don't expose. Could I steal it from you, Peter?
Yeah, I just wanted to show you real quick.
Sure, yeah.
This is, I went into the experiment site. I turned on my Cadence theme, right, which is the theme that I normally do. I pasted in that very same pattern. And in this case, because Cadence respects like the widths and things like that, again, it works. And that's the benefit of using core blocks, by the way. Go ahead.
All right, so I think that's probably my last thing here too. So the style book thing, I've worked on sites where this is actually just kind of, used to be, it was handed to you, like literally in Photoshop or something like that back in the day. But the nice thing about the full site editor, I think this is the thing they might be adding in 6.8, whatever the new one is. I think you're going to be able to see this, and I always got to find it because it's in a weird place though. Which I think this might be the stuff. There we go. So this idea of a style book at a theme level, again, you don't need a full site editor. I'm sorry, a block theme to do this, but this is that design philosophy. So I'd say this is kind of what separates website designers from people who are just do-it-yourselfers. It's trying to set as much consistency at a site level. So for example, saying, here's the font size I'm going to do for all my headers. Here's the colors I'm going to have for my headings. Here's the typography. Here's what I want a list to look like. I want the spacing of my bullets to be a certain place. So setting that styling at a theme level gives you consistency across any page, across everything. So that's the one, not the one, but I'd say that's still a major benefit of thinking about themes, and thinking about why do I need a certain theme? The nice thing about full site editing / block themes is it exposes all this to you. So if I don't like this, let's say I don't like the size of my H2, I say that's a little too small for me. I can start to change that here. I can override that and make it to, I don't know, or make that a different font or something. So it's giving you a little bit more control at a site-wide level.
Yeah, and Ray, what you just introduced there is the changeover from that you're showing with theme.json and what Paul was asking to now having control through that interface and having it saved to a database. So those changes do not get overwritten. So again, WordPress is constantly changing. Let me show you one other thing based on what you just said. And it'll take a second. I want to share this screen. All righty. This is WordPress 6.8 beta. This is what's coming in very soon. I can't remember the release date you mentioned at the beginning.
April 15th or something.
Okay. So one of the few things that was added, keeping in mind us classic theme users and appreciators, is this is a classic theme. This is running Cadence. I could pick anything, but under appearance, we now have a design menu choice.
Yep.
That is now what's coming in WordPress core. It's opening what looks like the full site editing interface, which is now becoming that whole data views thing kind of. And one of the things that we've got in there is that the style, but we can't control it, but at least you can see it.
Yeah.
So as you're making changes and all, you can see all of the things. So I was looking for this kind of all along because I thought, well, that would at least be a handy thing that I could see the changes that I make and how might it affect things that I haven't even put on my site yet. And then this also has the patterns interface, like full site editing themes have, that as if I have saved patterns and things like that, I would see them here. I could edit them here. This is very block theme-ish in the ways of controlling things. But this is
and I think that's some of it too, that even the theme now, the confusion is, like you said, we're talking themes tonight, but classic versus block themes. But meanwhile, WordPress itself is sort of drifting towards full site editor. So things that used to in the past, like we said, oh, it's just always go to the customize where it's classic. But now the like you just showed, the water's getting a little bit muddied because well, now classic themes have this additional thing WordPress added. So just I guess sort of, I don't see any other questions in the chat. Just one other caveat, quick one to wrap up too, is when we talk about page builders, one of the reasons I think a lot of people disliked page builders like Elementor and Divi in particular was notorious for this, was they locked you into their theme. So, a lot of the ones we showed, like Peter and I were able to say, oh, let me look at, and John dropped off, but John was asking before we started, hey, can I preview a theme? And I said, yeah, usually you can, but if you built something in Divi, that was a problem. It's hard to switch to another theme because once you do, all your code, all your pages were built with that Divi page builder, which Divi is kind of funny. The page builder is built into the theme itself. So all of the nice styling and boxes you have, they all look like garbage because they're not blocks. They're short codes. It was kind of an old way of doing things in WordPress. So you can't, they locked you into some of those old themes. So that's why I think people just had a sort of distaste for that. So for better or for worse, I think this new world of blocks does give you generally more flexibility than the old page builder world. So, all
And
right.
then we have things like bricks, which
No, I was sort of, I was so worried we're going to spin the dial.
I know, right?
Like oxygen. I'm like, I have no idea how these things work.
Now we're talking.
Yeah, I know. I was gonna say, I think DK knows the bricks, and that to me is like,
I'd be so
I mean,
confused.
that is just you're going all in. You're either it's
Soon to
either
be
brick
etch.
or bricks.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Soon to be etch.
Yeah.
I know.
Everything's,
Etch,
yeah.
Hey, can I ask you guys a question?
Yeah,
Of course you
sure.
You've got me playing with the playground, which I've never played with before. Playground.wordpress.net.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I followed your link that you put in the chat
Okay.
and was looking at your stuff, which is
Yep.
great. I just the best explanation of how to use that ever. So I'm so glad I came.
Excellent.
When I first went to it, I went to add that theme from Tyler. I was going to experiment, and I noticed that it suggested some AI themes. I thought, oh, I'll come back to that. So I installed the Tyler theme and I played around for the past few minutes. So then I erased it, logged out of it, went back in, and for the life of me, I can't get back there to see what it was suggesting for the AI themes. Do you have any idea what I'm talking about?
For
Is
the
it in the welcome screen still? Maybe it disappeared from the welcome screen.
Uh,
I
well,
think it was because the variations theme was loaded, and Tyler is very much the guy. It's the variations theme is by the same Tyler, and he's heavily into AI. In fact, if you go into that whole pattern thing, you can build sites using just his AI on Tyler.com. So my guess is because you had the variations theme loaded, I believe, if you use that link that I put, that that theme was saying, "Hey, do some AIE stuff with us." That is my guess, DK. So
gotcha.
yeah, it wouldn't have been a WordPress core thing. It would have been specific to
Okay.
what was loaded. Do you need that link again, or you have it?
It's in the chat, I think, still.
Yeah, I'm going to go find it in the chat here.
Yeah, Playground is awesome. We tend to use it a lot in these demos. I've found sometimes I don't like using it for live demos because if my browser gets too full and it crashes, and bye-bye, you have to start over again. It drives me nuts.
Oh, it's Cadence. Get started
Oh,
with AI
yeah,
powered. That's Cadence.
you're right. Cadence is yeah. So um, oh my God, his name's but very, very driven. So if you load Cadence blocks, it's part of the Cadence blocks plugin, and that has a lot of even in his free version, he's able to give you a certain number of API credits that you can build things without even having an account. You just have to
Right.
go through a sign up process. But you can say, okay, load this block, but I'm going to tell you that I am a dog walker and I like the color green or whatever, and it will. What that is really useful is now talking even what Paul was talking about when dealing with clients is you can prototype stuff that is far closer to what the client might want than saying, I know this is a picture, but it could be a picture of a plumber, but it could be a lawyer just the same. Ignore the picture. While using the AI stuff, you can kind of really whip up some things very quickly that is closer to whatever you or your client would want to see. So it's very, very useful, and maybe the subject of another meetup. We'll come back. We've been doing the AI stuff, and I think AI generated content, I think, is something that people are very, very interested in. Plus, I've been doing even more coding as a non-coder. And
all right, looking forward to it.
All right.
All right. Well, I think we'll wrap it up there. Thanks everyone for coming. This was a fun one and a funny one. We're never sure we do these things, but we spun the wheel. We only had one veto. It worked out. We'll do it again sometime with something else. So thanks everyone. Have a good rest of your night. And like I said, I'll put out the recording. If you missed anything, want to watch it again, I'll probably put it out sometime late tomorrow.
And on the website, I'll update it and I'll put a lot of these links and things like that because there's a lot of good stuff that you just kind of have to go through. So
yeah. So thanks everyone for joining. Hope to see you again next time. Take care. See you everyone. Bye.